Hi everyone, this is Linda from Soul Sound Photography, and today I'm going to show you my editing workflow. Now for this video I chose an image that I took last year, and I have to say this girl was a professional in front of the camera. She did such a great job being my model for the day, and I really love the way her images turned out, so that's why I chose one of her photos for this video, and I'm going to show you now how I edit a portrait like this one. So I always start in Lightroom. I import the image and I do some basic editing. I work on exposure, color saturation, and other things. And then when that's done, I import the image into Photoshop, and this is where I do the main editing part. So we are now in Photoshop. I have already imported the image, and we're going to start. So what I do first is I go through the image and I check if there is anything that I would like to get rid of, anything that's disturbing to me that I don't want in the image. So I'm going to zoom in. Okay, I'm going to zoom in, and I'll just start in one of the corners, go through every part of the image. So I check her pullover to see if there is anything that's distracting. There is nothing here. Now the background in this image is very blurry, so that's why it's easy for me to see that there is nothing disturbing. So my last step is to zoom in on her face and see if there's anything that I would like to erase here. I've got the healing brush selected. Take a very small brush, yeah, small one, and then I'm going to see if there is anything I have to change. So in this case, it's only some light reflections that I would like to get rid of, that small spot here, but yeah, nothing more to do for me. So that step is done. And then I start the real editing. And I have to say, I always use Greater Than Gatsby actions for my editing because I simply love them. They make the image pop, they make my subjects pop, and so it is just the perfect way of editing for me. I mean, there are different opinions on Greater Than Gatsby and other actions, but I really like them. So the first action I always play is the emotional color-based action from the Innocence workflow. I'm going to play it. Now it takes a few seconds to run. What this action does is it makes the colors pop, it sharpens my subject, it just makes the entire image pop more. It's a dramatic and rich action, that's what they call it, yes. And now you can see what difference it makes. So let's see the before and after. That was before, and that's now using the emotional color-based action. So you can see the colors appear more intense, the contrast is stronger, there is a spotlight in the middle, and there is a vignette around the edges, and yeah, I just really like that effect. Now what I always do is I go inside the action. There is this vignette, and the vignette is always set at 40% opacity, and sometimes that's too strong for me. So what I usually do is I bring down the opacity to like 20%, and then I'll check the before and after and check if the effect is enough for me or if I want it to be stronger. Now in this case, I have to say I would like to have a strong vignette on this image, just to make sure that my subject will even pop even more because she's in the center and there is this dark vignette around her. So I'm going to bring the opacity up to 40% and leave it as it is. Yes, okay, good. So that's my starting point. Next, is, let's see, next is sunlight. I would like to add some sunlight to this image. I would like to have it here in the center, and therefore I'm going to use the Carving Tree collection, and there is an action called Bright, let's see, Bright Peach Burst. So I'm going to play that action. Now you can see that sunlight in the middle of the image. A little box tells me what to do and how to use that action. I know how to use it, so I'll click continue, and then I can move this sunlight around the image. I can place it anywhere I like. So I said I want it to be in the middle, so I place it in the middle, but that sunlight is too much for me. So I'm going to decrease the size. I'll make it smaller. Yep. So now you can see it has become smaller. I'm going to place it in the middle like that. And now this action is played, but I don't want to see the sunlight on the top of her head. So I'm going to change that. It's a white mask, so what I need is the paintbrush with a black color. So in this case, I don't have to change anything. It's already set to a black color. I'll make the brush smaller. Yeah, like that. And then I'll zoom in. And yes, opacity 100%. I'll make it even smaller. And yeah, now I start brushing off the sunlight of my subject, because I don't want it to be on her hair and on her face. So let me get rid of it. Good. Okay. Good. So now I'll zoom out, and then now this is how I like it. I'll change it a bit more here, so let me get rid of it on that spot. Okay, good. Now I like it that way. Let me see, before and after. Yes, that's fine to me. Good. So I'm going to leave it as it is. And now I would like to bring some more warmth to the image. So I'm going to play another action. This time it's, can't remember if it's Innocence Workflow 1 or 2. I'm just going to check. I think it's Innocence Workflow 2. Yes. Lemonhead, Clean Warmth. So I'm going to play that action, and you can see it adds more warmth. Now it's played at an opacity of 100%. That's too much for me. So I usually bring it down to 0%, and then I slowly bring up the opacity to see where to stop, or where it's too much for me. So I think an opacity of 50% is okay, yes, for this image. Good. Now I'm done with that. Now this image is a fall image, but the greenery around my subject is still very green. So I would like to change that. And therefore I'm going to use another action that I really love. It's called Golden Leaves. So it does what it says. It changes the color of the leaves to a very nice golden color. So I'm going to play that action. It's a black mask, so you don't see any changes in the image. I have to change it to white color, increase the brush size, and then I'm going to play it on the image. So let me see, just place it everywhere. I can see greenery. Good. Okay, so now it's very yellow, very golden. It's too much, of course. Bring it down to 0%, and then I'll just bring it up a bit. I think an opacity of 30% is okay. Yes, okay, good. I like that. And now I'm going to play another action from the Innocence Workflow 2. It's called Candy Corn, and it adds autumn warmth. Um, I love this action. I mean, look at the colors. Um, it's played at an opacity of 100%. Of course, that's too much for me. So I'm going to bring it down to usually about 40%, but let me just check. Yeah, let's leave it here at an opacity of 50%. Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect. Okay, good. So now I'm almost done. Yes, what's missing now is a finishing. Oh no, let me play something else as well. I'm going to show you another action that I really like from the Innocence Workflow. It's called Butternut. It's a vignette. So we have already played a vignette, but this is another one that I really like, and I sometimes add it to my images because it has a very nice effect on the photo. So now you can see the butternut vignette. It has a very brownish color and it's very strong. So I'm going to bring down the opacity 0% and then bring it up slowly. And an opacity of 30% is absolutely fine. I don't need any more of it yet. But it really makes the subject, so in this case the girl, pop even more, and it adds this nice brownish color to the greenery and yeah, the background. So this is the butternut vignette, and now I'm going to play a matte finishing action that I really like. It's one of my favorites. I use it very often. It's from the Woodstock collection, and it's called Joplin. So you can see here what this does to the image. Now have a look. It's yeah, a matte purple action or filter. It's usually set at 70%, which is too much for me. So I'm going to bring it down to like 40. I'm going to check if that's okay or if it's too much for me. I like it, but I'm going to bring it down to 30%. Yes, okay, good. So now what I do is I brush off the Joplin effect of my subject because I want her to appear clear and not matte. So it's a white mask. I'm choosing my paintbrush and black color. I'm going to choose a brush size that is about the size of my subject. Yeah, so that one is okay. And I'll use an opacity of 50%, and then I'll just brush over my subject once, twice, 3 times. Now you can see here what I've done to the image. Yeah, so I got rid of the effect on my subject. Not entirely, but yeah, about half of the effect is gone now. And what I do now is I zoom in to see the main features of her face. And it's very important to me that the eyes, nose and mouth, so the main features in her face remain as as clear as they can be. So I'm going to bring the opacity up to 100%, and I don't want any Joplin on her eyes, her nose and mouth. So I'm getting rid of it on these spots. Yep. Okay, good. So there is no matte effect on her eyes, mouth, and nose. Good. Now I'm actually done. What I would usually do now is I would save this image as a PSD file, because when I save it that way, it keeps all my settings. So whenever I want to go back to that image and to my settings, I can simply open the file in Photoshop, and then I'll have all my settings here, and I can change anything I like. So if I deliver this image to my customer and they say, I don't like that effect, can you change this or that? It's very easy for me to just open the file again, have my settings, and then see, oh, okay, she didn't like the matte effect, so I'm going to get rid of Joplin, and then just save it again as a JPEG file, and then I can redeliver, and yeah, it's not much work for me. So I would usually do that. I won't do that now because I want to show you something else. After I finished the PSD file, I'm going to play an action that's going to flatten the image. And this action is from the Innocence Workflow 2, and it is called Supercalifragilistic. I'm going to play it. And as I said, this action will flatten your image. So I'm going to continue. Now what this action does, it gives a very nice finishing touch to the image. What it does is it blurs the background that is already blurry, so it will look even nicer. And it's going to sharpen the foreground. So it's going to sharpen what's already sharp in the image, so my subject. And yeah, well, that's the effect every photographer is aiming for. You want a blurry background and you want a sharp foreground. So this action just helps me increase that effect. Now it always takes a while for it to run, but it's definitely worth it. So we're just going to wait. And as I said, it's going to flatten the image, which means all the settings here, all these actions will be lost. Yeah, I cannot change anything about this afterwards. So that's why I always save the PSD file first, so that I can go back to the settings later on, and then I play the supercalifragilistic action. Now it's going to take a few more seconds. Good, okay. Now it's done. And you may not see that much of a difference, but if we just zoom in a bit, you will definitely see the difference. So have a look at the background first. When I play the action, you can see it blurs a bit more. Yeah, and when you focus on the subject now, you're going to see what this action does. Have a look at her hair here, or her eyes, and you will see it sharpens the hair, her eyes, yeah? And you can also see, when you focus on her skin, that it even has a smoothing effect on the subject's skin, which is perfect for any portrait. It's not too much of a difference, but a slight improvement. Yeah, so that's why I really love this action. I play it in the end. It's used at an opacity of 60% by default. I always bring it down to 30 or 40%, because this way it's a bit too strong for me. So I'll bring it down to, let's say, 35%. And yes, that's fine. So now I'm done. My last step is saving the file as JPEG, a JPEG file. And then when I'm done with that, I add a new layer. I take the paintbrush, I choose my logo, and I'm going to insert it into the image. So I'm using a white color, 100% opacity, and then I'll just add my logo to the image. Yep, that way. Okay, and now I'm going to save for web, and this way I can use this file for posting the image on social media. So what I do here is I minimize the image size. So the maximum width of the image is usually set at 1200, and so the image becomes a bit more compressed, smaller, and yes, this way I can use it online. I use a JPEG file at 100% quality, and yes, this is how I save my images. So I hope you like this video. I hope you like my editing. Give me a like, comment on the video, and tell me what other videos you would like to see. I wish you a nice evening. Bye bye.